we're seeing more people with Alzheimer's disease because we're seeing people live longer. And the biggest risk factor for developing Alzheimer's disease is age.
I was trying to do it all by myself, not ask for help and not seeking out help, which is a serious mistake in life.
The healthier we are, the healthier we can age. But it's going to take everybody working in communities to get there, and not just the individual.
By the year 2025, it's likely that the number of people around the world with diabetes will more than double. And part of this is occurring because of obesity. But there's also an aspect of it that's occurring because people are living longer.
Hey, I'm Chef Tom Douglas, and I'm going to show you how to make a delicious sauteed ruby chard dish.
Hello, I'm Ron Reagan. With experts, we're going to explore diabetes, caregiving, and community in the art of aging. All can play a significant role in how well and how healthfully we age. Diabetes is an epidemic with the power to profoundly impact quality of life in the aging population. According to the National Institute of Health, among people over 60, 10.3 million, over 20%, have this disease. Where we live and our community affect our ability to maintain autonomy and well-being, but first, an intimate look at the challenges of the complex world of caregiving.
I'm in the early stages of Alzheimer's, and my parents were both Alzheimer's victims. We're planning eventually to live in a facility that will accommodate me.
She still has a very outgoing, vibrant personality. She enjoys life and loves to do things. So as her primary caregiver, my job is to make her stay as active as humanly possible. So my goal is to keep us both busy, both active, both healthy.
Baby boomers have begun to attend to the needs of their parents, and their children will be faced with record numbers of elderly requiring care. 1 in 7 Americans aged 71 and older has some type of dementia. Keeping one's health while providing assistance to a family member is often described as one of life's greatest challenges. Often caregiving involves coping with Alzheimer's or dementia, a particularly tough aspect of aging.
Dementia is a collection of symptoms that a person may develop, which first and foremost has to include memory loss. So you can't remember recent memories, such as what you had for breakfast, or you may have difficulty remembering older memories, like what year you retired or what year you got married.
When we came here, one of my concerns was, would she find her way back to where we were living?
I wear this wonderful key, and it has my room number on it. When I go and walk the dog, I come back to the right unit.
Right.
Who made it?
It came from Japan. I find it very, very difficult because you wish, even if you have your children, you have 4 children, and they'll say they'll do whatever they can for me, but they're working and have their own family. It's not all that easy, and so you find different means.
In addition to memory loss, to have dementia, you have to have at least one other change in your thinking. So that can include problems with language, finding the words you want to use, or reading. It might have problems with visual spatial ability. You don't recognize people who you know, your own family members, or you become lost more easily. Places are unfamiliar. Can be changes in judgment.
It's been a difficult experience for us to, realize that Barbara has this, but we have accepted it. We now understand it. And what I have tried to do is look at living each day to the fullest.
A person with dementia may start doing things that are very uncharacteristic of them, giving to charities that they would have never given to before, or a person who's been very polite in public may start saying inappropriate things if they see someone who's overweight or has a bad hairdo. And so, in addition to there being memory loss and at least one other change in thinking, this has to be different from how the person was functioning before. People with dementia are often unpredictable in their symptoms, so they may look perfectly fine for a few days or a few weeks, and then they do something very surprising and very alarming. They may wander away, they may become lost, they may strike out at somebody.
I've learned, Barbara wants to tell me a story 2, 3, 4 times. I just sit there, smile, and listen, and I don't say, gee, honey, you've told me that 3 times.
And I think that fact that it's constant, it goes on for years. Dementia, typically Alzheimer's disease, a person typically lives with the disease 7 to 10 years after diagnosis. But some people live much, much longer than that.
Barbara was first diagnosed as the primary caregiver. I just about gave up everything. All my men's groups, all my committees, all my luncheons, I give it all up. And finally the doctors hit me over the head with a verbal 2x4 and said, no, that's wrong. You have to take care of yourself first, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of Barbara. And I've started to do things that I used to do before, and it's been just a godsend because it's made my life so much better. I'm so much better able to help her, and I'm no longer depressed. We have a future together. We're going to enjoy it.
In addition to reaching out to family, friends, and one's personal community, seeking out caregiver support groups, senior day centers, and asking your doctor for resources can be very helpful.
You don't have to do it perfectly. There is no perfect way to take care of someone who you love who is suffering from a progressive brain disease and is unpredictable. You just do the best you can and try to keep a sense of humor.
You try to let him do it himself, and then you find that he's doing the wrong thing, wearing his pants backwards. That's another hilarious thing, because he's trying to zip it in the back.
Try to recognize that the person you care about is in there, that this person who's had a life of experiences and has accomplished things and has friends and family and has been a professional, that person's still there. That person maybe can't articulate any longer the way that they used to, but they can still appreciate your patience, your tone of voice, your touch, your manner with them, your ability to enjoy things that are beautiful and laugh with them. You can still get a sense of pleasure and satisfaction, even when you have very advanced dementia.
But sometimes it could be that day is gone wrong, and I find that I'm very tired.
And there's no reason to argue. It's, I'm not going to win, and she's not going to be happy. So why argue about it?
Well, that's very wise.
Right?
What I've done is I've tried to take what I think are the key ingredients caregivers need to know and to turn them into an acronym, which is DANCE. D in the DANCE is don't argue. A stands for accepting the disease, realistic expectations, and self-acceptance. N stands for nurturing the caregiver, taking care of yourself. C stands for creative problem solving. And E stands for enjoying the moment with pleasant events and looking at the uplifts of caregiving.
What we've learned is that things that reduce vascular risk have a good chance of reducing Alzheimer's risk. So exercise, habitual exercisers are 40% less likely to get Alzheimer's disease in late life than people who don't exercise.
All the things that are good for a healthy heart, not smoking, watching your cholesterol and blood pressure, exercising, eating your fruits and vegetables, these things may reduce risk for developing the symptoms of Alzheimer's, may delay when those symptoms develop, and may slow how quickly they progress. We can't stop the progression of Alzheimer's disease, but we can improve the quality of life of the person who needs care and your own life as a caregiver.
Life is short.
Eat dessert first. That's a good phrase.
A new focus in the art of aging is the role of community. It turns out that where we live dictates how well we live. We're learning the importance of fresh foods being readily available and how economic status affects mobility and access to services. How can we create neighborhoods that promote health and longevity?
If you live in a wealthier society, in a wealthier community, a wealthier country, you will age better. If you live in a country where the gap between rich and poor is less, you will age better. As our country's gap between rich and poor widens, we're at risk for aging less well. The social democracies of Northern Europe and of Japan, where there's less of a gap between the rich and the poor, actually have better aging statistics, both in terms of longevity and in terms of function in late life, than we do.
Where you live impacts what kind of health profile you will have. And so, believe it or not, affordable housing and having places that people can walk, where they don't have to be in a car, where they have access to opportunities to get that physical activity in their neighborhood is key. So neighborhoods can be designed ahead of time to support those choices.
The great challenge for us as a society is how do we develop good health habits and good health environments for people of all economic strata. And then ideally we'd also have neighborhoods that allowed people to get the food and other devices that we need to stay alive easily and accessibly. And we're talking then about communities that are a little bit smaller in scale, have sidewalks, have safe intersections to cross at, and have shops that people can get to easily.
I think we all play a part in what kind of future we will have as we age. Those are choices that we can make as a society.
The number of people around the world suffering from diabetes has skyrocketed in the last 2 decades, from 30 million to 230 million, claiming millions of lives and severely taxing the ability of healthcare systems to deal with the epidemic.
All the gain that we've seen in life expectancy, reduction of stroke, and now possibly reduction of Alzheimer's disease could be reversed if we don't do something about this epidemic of diabetes.
Diabetes to me is of greater importance than was my cancer when I first was informed. This is a long-range disease, and I can understand that diabetes is a silent killer.
Ready? Begin. 1.
I come from a large diabetic family. My mother had diabetes. She's passed away now because of complications of the diabetes. My mother was blind.
Looking good. 5 more. 1.
Everybody should be on the lookout that this disease might affect them. Now, what might be said is, well, who cares? If I've got diabetes, it's like maybe having a little bit of blood pressure. The problem with diabetes is that diabetes increases by 2 to 3-fold the risk of heart attacks and strokes. The most common cause for amputations that don't occur because of trauma is diabetes. The most common cause of blindness in the United States is diabetes. One of the most common causes of kidney failure in the United States is diabetes.
Type 2 diabetes was previously called non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, or adult onset diabetes. Type 2 diabetes accounts for about 90 to 95% of all diagnosed cases of diabetes. It usually begins as insulin resistance, a disorder in which the cells do not use insulin properly. Glucose enters the bloodstream when the body breaks down food to use as fuel. The level of glucose in our blood is controlled mainly by the pancreas, which manufactures and releases the hormone insulin. Insulin works like a key, allowing the body's cells to take glucose up out of the bloodstream and store or use it as energy. In diabetes, two complications can arise. If the pancreas does not release enough insulin, the body's tissues can't take up glucose fully, and glucose levels in the bloodstream rise. The problem is compounded when tissues are insulin resistant and don't respond properly to insulin. Again, the cells can't take up glucose appropriately, and glucose levels in the bloodstream rise. Before people develop type 2 diabetes, they almost always have pre-diabetes, blood glucose levels that are higher than normal, but not yet high enough to be diagnosed as diabetes. There are 41 million people in the United States with pre-diabetes. Progression to diabetes among those with pre-diabetes is not inevitable. Studies have shown that people with pre-diabetes who lose weight and increase their physical activity can prevent or delay diabetes and even return their blood glucose levels to normal.
3, raising that whole knee up, looking great. 4.
Diabetes affects all your systems, and because you don't feel symptom at that time does not mean that it's not working on you. And so the progression of it is steadily. Once it's been diagnosed, you don't know how long you've had it before you were diagnosed or what damage has been done up to that point. So the sooner you take it on and start managing it, you can postpone the complications. You can sometimes get off medication. It just depends on how quickly you handle it.
I found out that everyone on my father's side, every single one of my family members, and we have a big family, have diabetes. And so I knew that eventually that was going to happen. But still in my mind, it's like it's not me,
African American, Latino, Hispanic, and Pacific Islander, those groups are growing tremendously with this disease. And so the first thing, if you get screened, then you can rule that out.
One of the most early signs is an increased thirst and increased urination, but it can be so subtle it gets missed. The important thing would be, as part of one's own health care approach, is to ensure that your physician is actually measuring your blood glucose on a regular basis when you go to see them for your annual checkups. You've got the IV and everything set up, so we're all ready to go?
Take an aggressive approach to your own health. Don't depend upon anybody else but yourself. If someone tells you, well, you don't need this test, no, take the test. And there are many instances where you can get free testing for diabetes.
Replacing the saturated fat in the dairy products, so you'd use...
It is only through portion control that any type of diabetes prevention program can truly be successful. And with the exercise, unless you control your intake of foods and the types of foods, then you're just like beating a dead horse to the ground.
This was not difficult to make. I made it right here.
Eating well-balanced meals in the correct amounts keeps blood glucose levels as close to normal as possible. Many people find a portion control plate very helpful when planning out their meals. The plate provides pre-measured areas for 3 types of food groups: proteins, carbohydrates, and vegetables.
Some of the most delicious Oriental cuisines have a lot of fat, a lot of carbs, along with taking in a lot of rice. And that's where I've had to make the major alterations.
There's a passage that says, make your food your medicine. And so I've been more diligent in looking up, was like, well, these are the ailments I have. What foods kind of will help that?
If you have diabetes and practice meticulous control of your diabetes, you can have a wonderful outcome, almost normal outcome, but of course it's better to not have diabetes and to try to prevent it. And the way you prevent it is by regular exercise and reduction of body weight.
So we have tools now that we can use to try and slow the progression to diabetes in high-risk individuals that can involve lifestyle changes or medications and work incredibly well in individuals even though they're getting older.
Exercise is critically important because it affects your blood sugars. There's a whole dynamic of your blood sugars. Essentially, they're sluggish. And so when you exercise, you're moving your body, you're getting that motion going where it will unstick, if you will.
By losing weight and by exercising, you can improve the ability of the tissues such as muscle, fat, and liver to respond to the insulin that's circulating. And also on the other side, the cells that make insulin seem to be doing better and release the insulin more efficiently. So together, both more insulin coming out and therefore more insulin available to move glucose into the tissues helps lower the glucose level in people with diabetes, and appears also to be the mechanism by which those people who are at high risk for getting diabetes may actually slow their development of getting the disease.
My diabetes is controlled through diet and exercise, and that is the way that a lot of people control their diabetes. I wear a pedometer. This one is a simple little pedometer that responds to your stride. I take 10,000 steps a day. Most people only take 3,000 steps a day. 10,000 steps a day is approximately 4 miles. I do that every day, and it's simple. If you drive, park your car at least a couple of blocks away from the office. If you take the bus, get off the bus at least 4 blocks before you get to your office, and 10,000 steps adds up.
I was horribly out of condition, and then I learned that I could walk. It didn't cost anything, just go a little bit further each day. I started out with 15-minute walks, that was all I could do. Then I got to the point where I could walk for 55 minutes in a day, and that's what I do.
This has given me the energy and the foresight to go on, because I promised my son, as well as my wife, I'd give him 25 more years.
As far as my future, I'm hoping to have as much fun as possible, for the time I got.
Changing eating habits is one of the biggest obstacles facing people with diabetes, but there are solutions. Go to our website, artofaging.org, for resources and recipes. To begin thinking of food in a whole new way, Chef Tom Douglas demonstrates strategies for cooking with great flavor and better health.
Hey, I'm Chef Tom Douglas, and I'm going to show you how to make a delicious sauteed ruby chard. I'm going to get my olive oil nice and smoky hot. First thing we want to do, grab some ruby chard. You can see the beautiful stem and the green leaf. Turn it upside down and just run your fingers right along the stem, and you can just pull that leaf right off. Other great greens for this dish, kale. There's black kale like lacinato kale. There's spinach, all kinds of great greens. This is a universal recipe. A trick for me is that I take this stem and I cut it up, and it takes much longer to cook, maybe even 10 minutes to cook. So as you can see, I have this very same thing in this pan, and I've just kind of braised it a bit. So I'm going to garnish my greens with my ruby chard stem. Okay, in goes the garlic. In goes some red chilies, and then lots of chard. This will cook down. It seems like a lot, but it'll all cook down. Just keep turning that over. And as you get down just a little bit, you can see it starts to go away. Add some more greens. Okay, so we're not going to use salt today. We're going to use lemon juice instead. And that lemon juice is going to give you the brightness that you want, that you would normally get from salt. But okay, we got our chilies, and I like to use just a little bit of black pepper. We'll pull our braised stems. And then at this point, you can turn your fire up all the way and just finish the wilting process. Off goes the pan, onto a plate. Check it out. Those are gorgeous. And then here's my special touch, like I said. The beautiful ruby chard stems right on top. And that way you don't have so much waste. You know, I hate throwing all that good organic produce in the garbage can. We're going to finish with a little lemon. We have 2 different cooking times, 2 different techniques. They both married beautifully.
Many of the issues we've covered have always been part of the human condition. What is exciting are the new tools we now have for coping with these aspects of aging. We can all join the movement to support building user-friendly communities. There's clear and directive information about the importance of exercising and eating well to avoid or control diabetes. The good news is, getting older isn't just filled with challenges. The art of aging continues to be full of possibilities.
It makes you feel good. I mean, I had lots of problems. I have fewer problems. I'm healthier.
85 years old, I'm still playing pickleball. Once you recruit a guy, they retire, maybe 60, 62, and we try to get him involved. The hardest thing is try to get him to come, but once they come in here, we got him hooked. Yeah.
Funding for the Art of Aging was provided by the Development Fund of Group Health Center for Health Studies, a non-proprietary public interest research center devoted to transforming healthcare in the real world, and by University of Washington Health Sciences Administration. For more information or to purchase a copy of this program, visit www.artofaging.org.